Welcome everyone. Excited to have this talk with you guys today. I'll do a quick intro on the topic. We're going to be talking about bringing AI and into wellness and how we've done that with Meta in partnership with TRIPP. Cool. So my name's Rohan. I'm the fitness and wellness lead on the emerging experiences team at Meta. We're focused on bringing Gen AI and other emerging technologies to our VR platform, and we've been in the space for a while, and we've worked with a lot of amazing partners. But one partner that we really love working with is TRIPP, and this is Nanea.
Hi everyone, I'm Nanea Reeves, and I'm CEO and founder of TRIPP. I have a long history working in the games industry, and for me personally, I played a lot of video games through the lens of supporting my mental health and wellness. I found it a controlled environment that I could use as an outlet, and I had worked with a lot of really great people, working at EA, working at a mobile game company called Jammed Out with Mitch Lasky, and it occurred to me one day that I was helping a lot of other people's ideas come forth in the world, and I asked myself what was my idea as an entrepreneur, and TRIPP was that idea. And it's been a joy to work with the Meta team since our launch in December of 2019, where I begged them to launch our app on the platform because it was the only place that really had enough users for us to train the data, collect the data foundation that ultimately is powering our AI interface, which we're going to talk to you in great detail on how we've incorporated AI features into TRIPP across multiple platforms, powered by Unity as well.
Awesome. Yeah, so just a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to be talking about why wellness is exciting, and both from a revenue standpoint, but also just from an impact standpoint, and really helping people. We'll go into how we approached bringing AI into the space and doing it both ethically and effectively, how Unity helped TRIPP go across many different platforms and really have a holistic view. And then we're going to show a quick preview of something that...
It's top secret, but not after this. So.
Yeah. We've been working on this for a while, and it's a really exciting new concept that could only be done using Gen AI. Some of the learnings that we learned about building with Gen AI that could be applicable to any title, even a games title, and how you can use that in your own development. And then we'll leave some room for a Q&A at the end.
Great. Okay.
So just a quick idea of understanding the wellness space and how big it is. I think we all know someone who needed support and mental health, and I think that it's such a big impact for both games and also wellness, or also entertainment in general, is how can we make things that have a direct impact in people's lives. And at Meta, we saw a product market fit in VR for wellness. We saw developers like TRIPP really making it a positive impact in people's lives.
I think fitness was a surprise for Meta to see people posting their weight loss videos after playing Beat Saber and Super Hot. And, Chris Milk leaned into that and built Supernatural. And we were on the Quest, the first mindfulness-focused app on the platform.
Yeah.
And really our approach, though, is how do you address your mental and emotional well-being in a proactive way rather than waiting for a mental health diagnosis? In the same way that we all know we need to eat well and sleep well and move in order to maintain physical health, there's a mental and emotional version of that as well. And that's our main mission, is how do we support the emotional well-being of the average person? And one of the beautiful things about launching on the Quest is gamer dudes are the best early audience ever. Because we launched as the first subscription app on the Quest, and we were just flooded with hate. And long missives on how poor our graphic quality was, how much we sucked, and very detailed direction on what would make us awesome. And so I really feel that TRIPP has been co-created by the gamers, essentially, that were early adopters of the Quest headset.
Yeah, I think it's a great point is that people who you wouldn't expect, like your traditional quote unquote mental health customer, ends up wanting and is excited about the product.
We're 60% male audience, and most mindfulness apps and wellness apps in the mental health space skew about 33% male. So it's something we're really proud of, that we're supporting a lot of young people's mental health.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's kind of to establish kind of where it's at and what the space looks like. But we're really excited to talk about how we've worked together to bring AI to the space and how we're doing it in a way that's novel and enabled only by using a tool like generative AI.
And I'm Hawaiian, and Kokua is the Hawaiian word for help and support. And it's done without the idea of reciprocity. It's a very spiritual word for us, so that's what we named our AI agent, and our AI platform is called Kokua.
So we're going to have a quick video to kind of give you an overview of what it is and how it looks.
I'm thrilled to introduce you to Voice Avatar.
Feel the calm within you. Breathe out and let it settle. Hello. It sounds like you're gearing up for something exciting. Let's enhance that energy and motivation with a focused meditation to help you shine at your work event.
So we launched Kokua last year on the Quest, and we also launched it on mobile to start learning. We were kind of afraid to have an AI mental wellness coach kind of out there, and went through multiple phases. And then because the voice avatar was trained on my voice, I had this awareness that I was having this very unique experience of hearing my own voice be compassionate and supportive to me. Most of us have very negative inner voices. You know, it's like, oh, that person sucks. She's an idiot. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Why did I say that? You know, we spend all day kind of in that rumination. And there's a lot of science behind hearing your own voice activating the self-referential part of the brain, even if you don't like the sound of it. It increases trust. So the light bulb moment was, we should create an interface that will allow real-time voice cloning. It takes about less than a minute to create your voice. We created a UX that did it. Meta was very supportive of us in this creation, and sometime this week, we're actually going to launch it on mobile, so you'll be able to, in our mobile app, create your own voice clone and talk to essentially your higher self, is the way we like to think about it.
Yeah, it's such an incredible experience to just read a few sentences and then hear your voice give yourself positive self-talk. So even if that's still a skill you're building, you'll or have the assistance of the generative AI to say, hey, I'm having a tough day, XYZ happened, and have your own voice help you through that experience. It's really powerful, and I'm still not used to hearing my own voice, but I will say it's effective.
Yeah, and it was interesting. We got a lot of feedback from different scientists and medical professionals on the feature as they discovered it. So I'm excited to get a broader audience with mobile. Not that your audience isn't massively huge, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, speaking of feedback, the users have been really receptive and really excited about the feedback or about the feature. I think like I said, it takes some getting used to understand what it feels like to have your own voice talk to you and provide feedback. But once you try it, it's just incredible.
Well, and I think one of the things that has made TRIPP successful in the XR space is we try to create experiences that you can't have in real life, that only the technology will facilitate. So our focus was on stimulate different responses from the user rather than focus on simulation, which a lot of other people were focused on. So we look at different ways to approach embodiment, make you feel like you're floating in virtual spaces, visualize your breath. So when we started thinking about AI, it was the same thing, like, oh, could you talk to yourself and be your own guide?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the interesting lessons learned from this as well, which was like not falling into the trap of replacing a button with a voice clone, or like just a voice prompt, and actually making novel, net new features that users really resonate with. Because there's nothing worse than saying like, oh, like robot, and then it hears bat, and then it does something totally different. You want it to actually provide some net new feature and functionality, and not just a replacement.
And on the TRIPP mobile app, our AI speaks 30 languages very well, and we have 21 voices now, and soon this week you can add your own voice. We've seen people do some cool things on the Quest with the voice cloning. We got an email from a man whose mother was at end of life, nearing end of life, and he had her create a voice clone in the experience. So now that she's passed, he can get support still from her. And someone else wrote us that they had their 9-year-old son create a voice clone, and they love getting coaching from in their child's voice. So you put the tools out there and then see how creative people interact with them. And we can talk about some of the guardrails as well. But so I'll walk you through the architecture. And I've had a lot of people tell us this is the right way to build it. We collected 25 million feelings on the Quest. People at the beginning and the end of every session told us how they felt, and we started building that, using that data to build this context engine that preserves the profile on the user, their history. We mediate, we get the prompt in, and we mediate between multiple LLMs as well as multiple voice, speech to voice. We're doing voice to voice. And then image gen, you'll see some experimentation with that on our mobile app. We're doing real-time image gen in context to the audio output as well. We segment the components and tag them so they can all sync together. All that's built on our side, and it helps us avoid vendor lock-in, which I think if you can take the time to build your own context interface specific to your game, your product, it's really the right way to do this. Because one, we can control the costs. And when open source versions come out that are somewhat competitive, we can run them in production in parallel without actually delivering a payload to the client, and train them with real data coming in from our user base in real time. And then once they hit a success rate on our scoring engine that we do internally, we've actually patented that, we can start to slot in the open source version, and you see the costs go down. And we've done that on several situations, but also one LLM output may not always be right for the individual request and the prompt and the use case. So it gives us ultimate flexibility. And I've been able to go back to Google and Anthropic and the OpenAI team and actually tell them which one of them is the most compassionate. I can tell you afterwards if you like. But it also allows us to bring in different biosignals from wearables as well. We're starting to experiment with the Meta Ray-Ban's camera data input. You know, can we do context-aware audio meditation guidance that is seeing and responding to what the person is seeing and responding in real time? So I highly recommend building your own version of something like this, where you control the memory, you control the context, and you can determine and route in real time which AI service to connect to, rather than hard coding a direct connection to them, where you know, kind of forcing vendor lock-in. And then the other thing too is that this allows us ultimately to be in a position of control of the quality as well. When OpenAI released 5.0, we didn't like the initial output, and we were able to stay shifted on 4.0 because we controlled sort of the mediation of the services that we were interfacing with. So Google team was highly complimentary on the way that we have architected this. A lot of our infrastructure is on GCP, and we can also have analytics that summarize a lot of the history as we build the profile of the end user. So I'm happy to talk in more detail to anybody who is starting to think about how to incorporate these services into your own environment. We've kind of experimented and learned as we went, and we're going to talk about some of the learnings as well that we can share with you.
Yeah, and to like really emphasize how successful this approach has been, in some of our prototypes we've built, you guys have achieved the fastest voice to text and response that we've seen, including on a headset, and it like feels local. It doesn't feel like there's a cloud latency at all.
Well, and that has to do with the way we built our own caching layer that segments and tags each thing with metadata, so that we can take like a snippet of audio and stream it, but it allows you to interrupt. I think 11 Labs has now built that, but at the time that we built this, they didn't have that in place. But we found that that tagging engine also allowed us to sync in real time images to snippets of audio. So the latency when you're generating something, an experience in real time, which we're going to show you some 2D versions of it, we're pretty excited about, you know, starting to experiment with things like World Labs and other like splat type of generation.
Awesome. Cool. So one another great kind of facet of this is how cross-platform this approach has been. It's not just VR, it's not just mobile, and it's not just wearables, it's everything. And that's something that Unity has really helped you guys do, right?
Yeah, they definitely have. It's something that I actually did when I was at EA, and we built TRIPP with the concept of being on every device in every format. So if you go to the next slide, I'll talk you conceptually for the end users, like how can we support your well-being throughout the day? In VR, we see most of our usage between 8 to 10 p.m. at night and on the weekends. So people still approach VR as like this retreat kind of experience, at least in the TRIPP ecosystem. When we launched, we had a mobile companion app that allowed you to personalize your VR experiences by uploading your photos, but it also allowed us to connect with you when you didn't have the headset on. And we believe that's been a key driver of our long-term retention. We have, of our paying users, what we call our premium MAUs, we'll see over 50% have been using our app 12 months or longer. And in VR, that's really good retention. And in wellness apps, the 30-day retention on most wellness apps on mobile are under 3%. So we see this cross-platform ecosystem as a key differentiator. We're starting to develop for the smart glasses now that we have our AI and looking at interesting ways. We have our own patents and models for detecting breath and heartbeat from the IMU itself. Our CTO had presented at the Unite conference a couple of years ago how we worked with Centis on developing the breath visualization models. We have our own AI layer that filters out other head movement but identifies the movement specific to the breath. And when your heart beats, there's enough of a head nod that you can pick it up on the IMU when it's placed on the head. So stay tuned for more on that. We launched a phone number that you can call and just talk to our AI. No app download, no registration. We detect the mobile number in the header, create the account, and we can maintain a conversational history. We're starting to experiment. Can we use that in ads? Just call and talk to our AI, and then see if we can push an SMS to download our mobile app as a different way to approach customer acquisition. So we'll go to the, and our mobile app sound frequencies, we noticed were being played a lot really late at night. So we created 8-hour sleep playlists. So, you get stuff out there and you see how people use it. And our AI agent's a big feature now on the mobile app.
And one really cool thing is the same AI memory stays with you throughout each one of these
Every
platforms.
platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. And I think the users love that they don't feel like, oh, this is like a new thing I'm engaging with. And because of the modularity of the infrastructure you guys built, when you're on glasses, you can use a lighter weight model. When you're on a faster internet connection, you can use something that's more heavy. And it really allows you to be the right model for the right opportunity.
Yeah, it requires that you build your own identity management interface, though, and your own entitlement system. So there's a little bit more heavy lifting. But I hear with the new platform toolkit from Unity, that might be a little bit easier now for interoperability. I saw even the achievements interface, et cetera. So going to the next one, architecturally, you could think of our client architecture as having a common core right here, including some of the Unity services that we really having a baseline core of open standards on the interaction toolkit, as well as OpenXR. And then we spend time on the front end developing a client template that is the baseline for each form factor. And I'm starting to think about how do we interact with robotics as well, whether they be emotional support toys or companions that are in the home for elderly care and other interfaces. We already know how to infuse technology with compassionate behaviors. So can we extend that and think of robots as another device output and a unique way to interact with the top of the funnel, informing it more like a closed loop. You look at a lot of these deployments and they're starting to incorporate AI, but they have such small user bases that they're not going to get the breadth that we have with people sharing how they're feeling at any given time. So you'll see us experiment a little bit with that, and I'm super excited. And then yesterday I was thinking, what kind of games can we play with robots? That's going to be a whole new development category. So again, like thinking about this architecturally of how you can use one framework, but have it be just thinking about what's the interaction layer on the front end based on the device capabilities. That's how we've architected this, and Unity being an underlying engine throughout.
Awesome. Well, we get to finally talk to you about the thing we've been hyping up.
I'll let you intro. Yeah.
So earlier this year, we came to TRIPP and wanted to start talking about what would it look like to have an experience that in XR that is generating as you're talking to it, and how do we make that relevant to TRIPP and bring in wellness so we can make an impact and also do something that's never been possible before without AI. And
we said, well, Rohan, we've actually been working on some stuff like that. So,
and yeah, here's a quick kind of trailer video that goes into the prototype that we built this year.
Dreams can be powerful experiences, but they're often hard to remember, harder to understand, and nearly impossible to re-experience or share with other people. So, TRIPP is using generative AI to solve these problems with Daydreamer, an XR app that helps users visualize and explore their dreams. We'll also have multiple AI personas that will create a foundation of repeatable daily engagement for use cases like lucid dream practice, which is a nightly preparation for sleep, or for dream manifesting, which is a daily check-in for life goals big and small. For now, Let's see how a user might capture and analyze a dream in headset.
Welcome. Tell me about your dream.
I started the dream at the center of these cave ruins. There was moss growing everywhere, and I could tell that there was light coming from one of the caves, glowing.
What did you feel drawn to explore first in this magical space?
I walked into that first cave, and as I walked in, I saw this totally unexpected creature, a glowing white tiger. At the other side of that room was this waterfall flowing, and on the ceiling were exactly these beautiful crystals glowing.
This enormous, awe-inspiring cavern opening up around you. Such vastness can represent limitless possibilities or a deep well of potential.
Can you place me into this scene? I want to be standing just in front of that white tiger. But keep the scene the same.
Understood. The scene will remain as that vast, glowing cave with the upside-down waterfall and the white tiger. You'll be right there in front, calm, confident. What's
There I am, still wearing that suit. Hilarious.
A white tiger often symbolizes courage or a guide. Do you feel that this tiger might be representing something in your waking life? Perhaps a protector or a part of yourself? The white tiger's presence, those waterfalls and the glowing cavern, they all seem to reflect that sense of stepping into something new. What's one step or direction you feel ready to explore, either in your waking life or within this dream space?
It's time for me to book that next trip. Thank you.
You're welcome. It sounds like this dream gave you a powerful message. That sense of adventure and the readiness you're feeling is truly meaningful.
So, for this demo, we prioritize the creation of images, soundtracks, and world environments. But our architecture also lays a clear path forward for sound effects, interactive 3D objects, generative videos, and Gaussian splat environments like World Labs that you can fully explore.
So we've incorporated some offline rendering modes as well for the walkthroughs. So as we finalize the product for commercialization, you'll see a few different modes where you can do the real-time building, and then we'll do some offline generation that also has a lot more interactivity involved in it. We've been able to test about a 15-minute render time on those, so that's a good use case for input into the mobile app even, and then a notification when it's ready, and then you can put the headset on and experience it. And it gives us the building blocks for multiple types of instruction sets, so it doesn't have to just be dream analytics, manifestation, vision board creation tools in unique ways where you can hold space, create different challenges. But you could start to think of some of the clinical use cases to help somebody recreate maybe even a difficult experience with the support of a medical professional guiding them through in a way that could be helpful and more empowering. And I can share my own experience with testing sort of the first playable, which we just shared with you. I had a bad dream about a difficult time in my childhood. It was really interesting to be able to jump in the headset and share it with the agent. And it generated the experience that I described in a way that it actually was uncomfortable. It created some discomfort for me, but I felt that I had agency in the experience. And I asked the agent if it could help me with a way to reframe that experience from my past, and it generated this image of a more supportive, nurturing mother than the one I actually had. as a child, and it was this image of a mother holding her child in water. And it was so profound for me to receive that in that moment. And it changed the environment to be a much more positive version of what I had experienced, that I could leave the experience having more of a sense of control at how I looked at it. And to me, it was just a kernel of where this could go. If we give the building blocks out to people, we can start to look at how it gets used and adapt in real time. So we wanted to talk about some of the learnings that we've had with working with AI tools in general in XR.
Yeah, one of the big ones is especially as it regards to wellness, but I think this could apply to any application, is how do you balance the guardrails that you provide to the agent with real world feedback? And Tripp learned a lot through this experience.
Yeah, we made a lot of mistakes too, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, if you provide too many guardrails, then your AI will like almost act in ways that you just could not expect, even more unexpectedly than without guardrails, which is kind of not how you think it would play out. But yeah, we spent probably like a few weeks just figuring out how much do we tell the AI what not to do.
Yeah, because if you say, oh, we want to have templates and we want, the way that we normally build apps, we define the user journey and we build the UX around that and the narrative to, craft the user experience. And what we found with working with AI, when you try to do that, it gets really frustrating because it's not adapting to what's actually happening. It keeps trying to move the user back to the guardrail. And so you can even see some remnants as we loosen up our framework. When you interact with Kokua on mobile, sometimes like its solution to everything is to get you to do a breathing exercise. And that can be frustrating when you really want some real guidance. And in that experience that I shared with you originally, I wouldn't have been able to change or remix the experience unless I was in the manifest build a dream mode, as opposed to it just staying in analysis on the dream I was having. Once we loosened it up, it could actually respond to my request for a more positive output. So that was really interesting. And you can see lots of examples of this with AI tools out there where, with the best intentions, a company like Google will make sure that their image generation is inclusive. No one expected, Black Nazis to be an emergent behavior coming out of that. So I think that it's important for us as a community to share some of the mistakes that we're finding and some of the tunings that seem to be balanced and some of the emergent behaviors that were unexpected that we're seeing in the AI interactions with humans, so that we can all learn and create safe environments for people.
Yeah, I think that's probably like our biggest takeaway.
Right.
Some of the other ones we learned is how important it is to get right the listening, processing, speaking state of the AI, like when the user is supposed to speak, when the AI is speaking.
Right.
The user should be able to know that they can interrupt the AI and stop. And that's something that's enabled because of TRIPP's infrastructure, that you can interrupt it.
Yes, and the Lotus that we used as the avatar was just placeholder. We're doing the rigging right now, so it has a bunch of different animations that indicate different states of listening and processing, et cetera. So it's a constant feedback loop. We did find early on at TRIPP, whenever we tried to embody any kind of AI with humanoid features, that people just go, and when we just defaulted to light, it was much more received. And if you look at all the really popular AI chatbots out there, they are very simple avatars. They're not really representing anything sentient. I think they all learn the hard way, so save yourself a bunch of work. I always share that because we know that character rigging is so hard to get across that uncanny valley. But what we found was that, at least for now, people seem to want their AIs to represent as non-sentient life forms, as it were. That may change as we grow up, more used to these interactions and don't have such an existential kind of fear response. But you can see it gets accelerated even in the robot interfaces. When I was at CES last year, there were robots everywhere, and you would see all these crowds standing around the robot, and inevitably some dude would come up and kick the robot, right? And I don't know what that's about, but I think, you know, we're going to go through a process of getting used to interacting with these things in a way that is not threatening. And so we found anything that has like eyes and a mouth, people found cringy, if not creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we got Demogorgon as one of our feedback when we were trying to build a character. This one, you know, it's probably obvious, but it's just so important around latency. We found the threshold right around 40 milliseconds from when the user speaks to hearing a response. And even that is a little bit on the long end, but anything more, the user feels like they weren't heard. It makes for such a bad experience that people will end up leaving within just a few interactions if it's anything more.
So hard too, because if you do it too loosely, it's always interrupting you too. So that background noises have been like the bane of our existence right now. We just incorporated a toolkit called CRISP with a K that I think they use on Discord as well, and that seems to be helping. So yeah, that tuning has been hard too.
Yeah. And then finally, you know, we talked about this earlier, but designing for emotional impact is really important. You don't want to just use your voice AI to replace a button because it just feels worse to the user. You're just making them do things that's more annoying. You want to have it actually build a feature that's new, and like something that we realize is using voice to put you back on rails if you are going off rails is a good way to use Gen AI and voice AI to like really keep you on the path of moving forward.
Well, and you can sometimes see some unhealthy attachments happening as well. We implemented something. Some of the LLMs are designed to answer your question and ask another one to keep you engaged. And all of us, you know, have had video games where it's all about increasing the time spent in app, et cetera. But we actually found it's more responsible to, we built what we call touch grass mode, where if you're in session too long, it will actually encourage you to stop and take a break. And then a couple times we've actually cut off access, not forever, but just like forced break. And again, those are areas that I think we could develop as an industry more standards, ensuring that there are healthy interactions. I mean, we know this with gaming as well, right? We've had to identify unhealthy game usage. You know, I've worked in that industry for a long time, and child safety, all of that. With AI interactions, there's a whole new version of that. And there's not enough data, I think, for us to understand even what the beneficial outcomes might be to have some potentially toxic interactions with an AI that might alleviate your expressing those things out with other humans. So I would love to see more research stand up in this area as well. But I think sort of the open source approach to what we're learning and finding as a community has been really important for us. So we're plugged into a lot of the AI ethics conversations, and people who are consciously trying to approach building these things responsibly. We participate in a lot of those conversations.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate it. We want to leave some room for questions if anyone has any, but yeah.